Lawrence Kohlberg was a famous psychologist born in 1927 in New York. He attended the University of Chicago, where his interest in developmental psychology began. Developmental psychology is basically what it sounds like. It's the study of how the brain develops. But in graduate school, Kohlberg became interested in a specific type of developmental psychology called moral development. Moral development is a type of development in the brain that has to do with how you think about moral issues and what you think is right or wrong. Another very famous developmental psychologist was named Jean Piaget. Although my research for this project is not focused directly on him, he's still really important because he was Lawrence Kohlberg's inspiration and influence. Jean Piaget was known for his studies and research in a lot of different areas of developmental psychology, one being cognitive development, which has to do with how the brain thinks, perceives, and gains knowledge about the world around it. Although Jean Piaget didn't focus his studies and research specifically on moral development like Kohlberg did, he did come up with two sort of stages of moral development, which define how most people at a certain age think about what's right or wrong. He said that younger children, ages 11 and under, believe that rules are absolute things that they must always follow because their teacher or authority says so. But older kids understand that rules are just devices to help people get along, and they can be changed. But Lawrence Kohlberg later came up with 6 much more accurate and specific stages that gave a whole new definition to moral development. He even came up with a device to help judge which of his 6 stages a certain person was at. This device is a story about a couple in Europe called the Heinz Dilemma. It is as follows. Heinz's wife was near death from cancer. There was one drug that the doctors thought might save her. There was only one pharmacist who sold the drug. Since he discovered the drug and was the only person who had it, he decided to charge 10 times what the drug cost him to make. For a small dose of the drug, it cost him $200, but he charged Heinz $2,000 for that dose. Heinz didn't have $2,000, so he tried everything he could think of to raise the money, but he could only get together about $1,000, which is half of what it cost. He told the pharmacist that his wife was dying and asked him to sell it to him cheaper or let him pay later. But the pharmacist said no. I discovered the drug and I'm going to make money from it. So Heinz got desperate and broke into the man's store to steal the drug for his wife. Should Heinz have broken into the store to steal the drug for his wife? Why or why not? By analyzing people's responses to this passage, Kohlberg was able to classify people's moral thinking into one of his 6 stages. You'll learn about the stages now. Stage 1 is called obedience and punishment. At this stage, children assume that authorities in their life, such as teachers and parents, lay down a set of rules that they must unquestionably follow. They hardly even realize that viewpoints differ morally. They're just interested in abiding by their rules to avoid punishment. So in response to the Heinz dilemma, children with moral thinking at stage 1 almost always say that Heinz did not do the right thing because stealing is bad, it's against the law, and you can go to jail. And that sort of reflects what the whole stage is about.
He didn't do the right thing because you shouldn't steal things. Stealing is a bad thing.
If you steal stuff, it means you can you have to buy it, but not steal it.
I think he shouldn't have broke in because he could have went to jail.
Stage 2 is called individualism and exchange. At this stage, children realize that authorities' rules aren't the only right point of view. They realize that everybody in life naturally wants their own way of things, and everybody wants to pursue their life in their own different way, based on their own self-interests. Punishment is just a risk that everybody wants to avoid. So in response to the Heinz dilemma, children with moral thinking at this stage often think, well, what was right for Heinz is what met his self-interests, which means stealing the drug for his wife, and what was right for the druggist is what met his self-interests, which means making the money off the drug. They also often point out that the druggist was being unfair for charging too much money for the drug.
It would have been nicer of the man to just let him buy the drug for $1,000. I mean, that's a lot too, and that'd be better if his wife didn't die.
It was right for him to steal, and it wasn't because but he didn't have the money, so he stole it. But also, he didn't have the money, so he couldn't buy it, so he just stole it.
Stage 3 is called good interpersonal relationships. At this stage, people, not just children anymore, believe that you should live up to the values of family and community, and that you should have trust, empathy, and compassion for one another.
Because my grandma, she's going through breast cancer right now. So if my grandma needed it, I would break into a billion stores just to get that. Because my grandma's everything to me. So I'm pretty sure that Heinz, his wife, means a lot to him.
He should have done it because if I had someone who I loved, then I would go through anything to save them.
Stage 4 is called maintaining the social order. At this stage, people are concerned with society as a whole. They want the world to function correctly, which means they usually want everybody to abide by rules and laws. Although they are essentially taking the same side as Stage 1, obedience and punishment, Stage 1 children have no grasp for how society works as a whole. So in response to the Heinz dilemma, Stage 4 people almost always say that it was wrong for Heinz to steal the drug because what he's doing is not keeping society functioning orderly and properly. And they also often point out that if everybody stole what they wanted, the world would be chaos.
I think it was wrong for Heinz to steal the medicine because theft is simply a wrong thing to do, and if he could justify it by the fact that his wife was dying, then anyone could think of a different reason to justify it, and then the world is chaos.
Stage 5 is called social contract and individual rights. At this stage, people define what a good society means for them, realizing that there isn't only one straight answer to the way the society should be. They compare human rights to the law, and are very theoretical about the way the world should be. So when responding to the Heinz dilemma, people from Stage 5 aren't usually in favor of breaking the law, but their responses usually come down to saying, yes, it was okay for Heinz to steal the drug from the pharmacist because life is more important than property. Their responses to the Heinz dilemma also often contain a lot of references between the way society is and the way they think society should be.
So I guess in a way, for me, the greatest good is the sanctity of human life. And although one can understand from the pharmacist's standpoint that he had his rights, and certainly those were protected under the law. In other words, the law was behind the pharmacist, not behind Heinz. There are lots of instances, most prominently that comes to mind with me is the civil rights movement, where the law was really on the wrong side of morality and doing the right thing. It took someone like Martin Luther King and the people surrounding him to realize that just because there were laws in place that, in a sense, created this social order in the South, they saw that that wasn't the greatest good. The greatest good was to, in a sense, assert the dignity of human beings, in this case African Americans, and if that meant breaking the law, then so be it.
There was originally a Stage 6 called Universal Principles that sort of went above and beyond all the other stages. But after a few years, Lawrence Kohlberg discarded the stage, realizing that it wasn't very much use to him.